Good evening, everyone. I am Camille, working at Uplifters as a learning designer, and I'm very, very happy to be here with you tonight. Thank you for joining me for this 31st episode of our Uplift Your Night series. I'm always very happy to meet you once a month in this nice space. Also, very happy to see we already have 8 to 9, 10 participants watching us, and super excited about the topic we're going to be discussing tonight. But before we dive into the topic, and before I introduce you to who our guest for tonight is, let me take a few minutes just to remind everyone what Uplifters is and what we do for those who do not know us well yet. So, Uplifters is a nonprofit based in Hong Kong. We also have a lot of our students in Singapore. And what we do is that we empower underprivileged communities with online education and peer support. So there is one online course on money management, personal growth, and mental well being that we offer for free for domestic workers. Meaning that all domestic workers, wherever they're working, can enroll for free and learn more about how to manage their finances and how to grow personally at their own pace. And to do that, to enroll, that's actually very simple. You only need to go to our Facebook page, Online Courses by Uplifters, and to click on Send Message. And I'm also going to screen the link of our Facebook page so you can have it and enroll or share it to your friends if you want to encourage them to join the community. So I can see we are already having many of our community members joining us, saying hello. So good evening again to everyone. Hélène Mahé, Olivero, Rachel, Muli Catherine, Marianne, Wei Wen, Faith, Edrialine. So some names that I'm very familiar with and names that I'm discovering. So, very happy to have you all with me tonight. So, as I was just saying, tonight is the 31st episode of our Uplift Your Night series. And the very first objective of us gathering all together once a month is to be together. Really, Uplifters is first and foremost a community. This is extremely important to us. We also want to keep learning together and supporting each other. And that's why we change topics month after month just to have a discussion to learn more about a new topic, but also listen to your experience and learn from each other. So, tonight's episode is on a very interesting topic. So, this is about the power of community and the need to nurture what we call the right friendships. So we know that the need for social connection is extremely important. It's actually a basic emotional need, and it is also the case for the need to belong to a group of people, to belong to a community, to belong to people who may have the same hobbies, may have the same objectives. Um, and this is also one of the reasons why, as migrant domestic workers, being far from your loved ones might sometimes be that hard. It feels very lonely, and many of you have experienced homesickness, which is a very difficult feeling, but which is also a very normal feeling. And that's why having friends and being supported by a community in your working country not only can help, but is very important for your mental well being. But unfortunately, while we all desire relationships that are healthy and thriving, sometimes it does happen that we find ourselves in friendships that can turn toxic or unhealthy, and that do not bring any positive to our life anymore. And so that's the one thing that we wanted to discuss about tonight. And to have this discussion, we're super happy to have Valencia Myint as our guest. Valencia is a counselor. She's also the founder of a wonderful organization called Confide In, which is an online counseling and emotional support service. And she will be sharing her views and advice on how to choose the right friendships, and also how to recognize and also how to avoid, obviously, unhappy or unsafe relationships. So, very briefly, a few words about Confide In before we welcome Valencia, and she might want to add a few information about herself and her wonderful organization. But just so you know, um, Confide In is really there to cater individuals that may benefit from a listening ear and supportive approach. So the vision is really to support people on their life journey, to stress the importance of emotional health, and to strive to break barriers in seeking support. So we know that going out there and seek professional support is not an easy thing, and that's also why we're happy to be connected to a community. But sometimes it's it's not enough. We need professional help, and that's why organizations like this one do exist. So, Valencia, I will now introduce you for good to the community. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you very much, Camille, for that lovely introduction. There isn't really much for me to add, really, but I just wanted to say hello to everyone who is with us live tonight. Really happy to be with you all. And yes, as Camille was saying, I am a counselor, I'm a psychotherapist. I'm originally from Hong Kong. My family's from Myanmar, and I lived in the UK for some time, and now I'm in Cyprus. And in Hong Kong, I worked with the refugee population. And I'm excited to talk with you today, Camille, about today's topic because I think it's something that, obviously everyone here will resonate with. And for me personally, it's this whole topic of friendship and community, which was so important for me moving to a new country, especially one which I'm not very familiar with. And I think just finding those, I guess, connections, just like especially the social connections, I think that really helped a lot in the adjustment, because it was, it's difficult to adjust to a new place. And I think today we're going to be talking a little bit about all of that as well.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it as we are starting the discussion, Valencia. I think it's all the more important when you're not in a place that people, but also that you might feel the need to adapt, and it's always easier to adapt with some support than on your own. That's for sure. Before I ask you the first question, and before we really develop that topic, I just wanted to share some of the quotes that I collected from some of our community members. It was actually very interesting because we're uh, currently at Uplifters piloting a new online course on COVID-19 and mental health. And so the way we do things at Uplifter is that we have class chats online, so students can interact with each other and share their experiences. And there were some sharing about the power of community and how important it is. I just wanted to show two of these sharings that I found very powerful. Um, so we first add, sorry, I'm just gonna yeah, make it bigger so I can read it out loud at the same time. So we first had Charo. So Charo, she's one of our team leaders. Team leaders at Uplifters are domestic workers themselves, who are actually facilitating the learning of new students, just leading the discussions in those online class chats that I was just mentioning before. And so Charo is saying, being involved in different communities helped me a lot to know different types of people. Those who like the same things as me, like volunteering, writing poems, swimming, enjoying outdoor activities, and going to church. These are the people who helped me to grow the most. They saw the good in me, my potential, and my talents. Most especially, they saw the real me, while some other people are judgmental and will say things about me behind my back without even knowing me personally. So, good friends will bring out the best in you instead of judging you and putting you down. And then she adds a few words that I find particularly interesting. She says, "We do not need a lot of friends. Friends you can count on your fingers and toes are enough if they are legit, if they are true friends, right? There is no sense in having a lot of friends if they are not true friends and keep judging what you're doing." So that's for Cheryl, and I will just read the other one, and then I'll let you comment, Valencia, if you want to. Um, so Supina is another of our team leaders, also doing a great job in supporting new students. And she says, joining different communities through volunteering helps me learning about the people's talents and how to think positively. It also helped me learn how to help others and enjoy our journey in the community together as one happy life. In a truly supportive community, women will motivate each other, not compare one another. Being part of a community is a blessed journey for me. We build friendships that are very enjoyable. And I really like the idea of building friendships. Valencia, is there anything you'd like to share about those two definition of what a good friendship should be?
Yeah, I think they have some really great inputs there, especially around that, the lack of kind of feeling judged, not to feel judged by the people who you consider your friends. And I think as to what you were saying, Camille, like that whole building friendships thing, it really is like a growth journey with friendships too. Like we don't really talk about friendships as much as maybe we can be. Like maybe we tend to focus more on like maybe romantic relationships or those with our family members, but friendships really do need to, I think, take more center stage as well. And I think from the first quote, what I liked was the whole thing about it's not about the quantity, right? It's about knowing what it is that you're looking for in a friendship and kind of really like fostering that for yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Valencia. So I guess like one thing that would be interesting to explore a little bit as we start the discussion is trying to understand why, as human beings, the need for social connection is that strong.
Hmm. I mean, yeah, I think for as humans, we are very social beings, right? So the need for social connection is very strong. And as social beings, we do interact with our environment and vice versa. So a big factor of this other social connections that we have, and like we really thrive on that. And if you kind of think about, without having these social connections, what that would look like. There's a huge kind of sense or feeling of like loneliness and isolation. And this is like a pretty negative feeling, right? Like it's not just kind of feeling it from an emotional perspective, but it can also have, like adverse effects on our overall health, like physically as well as mentally. So there's been a lot of kind of research around the impacts of, long-term feelings of like of isolation, of loneliness, and how it impacts, our body physically speaking. So, like for example, links to, high blood pressure, like heart disease, immune system deficiencies, cognitive decline. And I think from an emotional perspective, right, like kind of feeling anxiety, feeling depression, and things like that. So even like going back to like the past, our ancestors and the need for having a community and to interact with each other, it kind of helped us to achieve the things that we want to achieve, like as a group kind of goal. Like if you think about kind of the hunters back in the day, you would kind of do them in groups to kind of achieve a common purpose. So nowadays, I mean, the same is kind of true. It's kind of this aspect of connecting and working together to achieve the things that we want to together. So I think that power of community is quite strong.
Yeah. Thank you, Valencia. I find it super interesting to look back and see where this, need to connect
Mm.
comes from, and that's not something new, and that also explains how strong the need for connection is, even today, and even now that we sometimes feel overconnected a little bit using all these
Mm.
online, chats and social media. Um, so that's also interesting to see that it's not something that is new. Um, and before we move on, I'd like to share this testimony from Jasmine. So Jasmine is one of our mentors. She's been with us for a very long time now, based in Singapore. And I think her message got cut, maybe because of the length. So I'm just going to read her definition of what good friendship is. And maybe, Jasmine, if you want to send the rest, we will be able to read it afterwards. So, what Jasmine says is good friendship is essential for us, migrant domestic workers. Being far away from our family, we need a social support to help us get through challenging times. I have a bunch of good friends whom I can count on when things get tough. They are with me, rain or shine. I have a friend who I can say knows me better than I know myself. She knows exactly if I'm feeling down and will literally drag me out from my room and keep me company. So that's very moving. Thank you for sharing. That's super powerful. Anything you want to add, Valencia?
Something just came to my mind on what you were saying earlier, Camille, about how now we tend to feel a little bit over-connected at times, especially with social media. And I completely agree with that. I mean, obviously, social media has some great benefits. Especially during the pandemic time, we were able to keep in touch, during various lockdowns, and also, being overseas from our families. So, social media and like those kinds of outlets are really the ones that we can utilize. But on the other hand, it can also be a toxic environment, and it can kind of give us a lot of maybe negative feelings about certain things. So I think to that, with the social media usage, I think it's this kind of maybe encouragement to use in a way that is healthy for us. Like there's kind of ways to maybe yeah, just kind of, I guess, change the way that we use it. If it is becoming something that's unhealthy or toxic, it's to kind of look for things which help us and kind of give us that support, and kind of focusing on those things. So yeah, I wonder if that's like maybe some of your experience with social media as well.
Yeah. I cannot but agree with that. So feel free to share any experience, bad or good that you may had on social media. I mean, we've all been online quite a lot the past 3 years now. I know also that being migrant domestic workers, social media are, the one way you can keep being connected to your family. So as Valencia said, sometimes the line in between what a good use and a bad use of social media be, very very thin. So that's not really obvious, but I think it's super important to stay vigilant, And like the campaign that we're currently disseminating using social media about friendships, I think there is one post about, you know, how to run away from a toxic relationship, and it also, and we're giving some tips if I remember well. And there is a tip about social media. You know, if you really want to be um avoiding someone, then now you also need to think about how this person might be reaching out to you through social media. So it's both physically, maybe avoiding some physical places, but also just cutting the links and the relationship on social media. So it's a complete different way of seeing things. And going back to, you know, the family and the need to connect, I thought it would be interesting to just maybe stress a little bit how homesickness is a normal feeling and how tough it can be, but most maybe also how we can manage it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think we've all kind of been there, haven't we? Like, I think most of us here, we are away from home in a way. And for sure, it can bring about feelings of homesickness. And what that essentially means is this kind of feeling of emotional distress, like to be away from home, and not just physically being away from home, right? I think we're talking about the familiarities we have, the comfort, the things that we felt attached to. And then suddenly that's not really there anymore. And the things that we're facing have become quite foreign. It's quite alien. Like you haven't really found your feet and you feel really unsettled. So essentially, just being in a new and unfamiliar environment. And so certainly, when I was talking about, you know, my own personal experience of moving to a new country, that was really a lot what I felt. You know, like just a lot of things where you feel kind of a bit unsettled. So it's a very normal feeling, really, for anyone to be away from home, and it can really impact our mental health as well. So you know, this maybe feeling distressed. Um, Maybe a bit of anxiety around uncertainty and unfamiliarity, just difficulty kind of adjusting and maybe kind of finding yourself like withdrawing or avoiding things and kind of going into your own shell, right? Which then again exacerbates the whole feeling of loneliness because then you do feel even more alone because you're kind of withdrawing from everything and everyone. So certainly it's, you know, a huge kind of personal experience for me. And um, like when you were asking Camille about how to manage it, I suppose it's like referencing today's topic. You know, we're talking a lot about the power of community and about friendships. You know, so you're still keeping that kind of support system around us, whether it's friends or family, you know, knowing that you're not alone, even when it may feel like that, when we feel very homesick, because it's so easy to feel alone. And I think other things which help to manage is even still, like even being in a new environment, it's good to seek out things that were close to comfort for you, like from when you were back home. So, for example, like joining groups of like similar interests as you know, if you were really into some kind of like, I don't know, swimming, outdoors, hiking or reading or, you know, kind of arts and crafts, like all those kind of hobbies and activities you can kind of think about, which you were interested in. I mean, could you find something similar like that in the new place you're in? And if there isn't, then there could also be the consideration to set one up as well. You know, so maybe to initiate something, see who else might be interested. And I think that's like a good way to kind of build up that kind of community sense. And of course, it's also good to talk about your feelings with someone, right? So that could be with someone close or even to a professional, like you were saying earlier. Like sometimes it's a little bit of a effort to kind of reach out to people, but it's kind of knowing that, you know, you can talk to someone about it, and then that does help as well to kind of relieve those feelings of distress.
Yeah, that, and even talking to a friend sometimes is not easy. So we
Mm,
can't but understand, how difficult going to see someone professional might feel sometimes. Um, so yeah, thank you, Valencia, to remind us of the basics. You're not alone, and it's very important to surround yourself with people,
mm.
especially when you feel a little down. At the same time, and that we're gonna go a little deeper in the topic of tonight. Can you tell us why it is important to really choose our friends, and what can we consider as being a good friendship? Because sometimes we might imagine also that being alone feels too heavy and we want to connect with whoever is around, and that might work for a short term, for instance, but going a long term, sometimes we might want to really choose who we want to be spending time with.
Yeah, I think so. And I guess it's kind of thinking a little bit about what we need to feel supported as well. Because essentially, a good friendship or a right friendship is one where we feel supported and understood, right? Like from one of the quotes earlier, like to not feel judged. Maybe it may be a relationship where we may share the same values, the same beliefs, interests, or at least like even if you don't have the same values, which is fair enough. Like for example, people may have very different, for example, political values. But then still, like you still feel understood by the other person to kind of freely express yourself without feeling judged for it or feeling like misunderstood, and kind of feeling that sense of honesty and trust, being able to be our true self, not feeling this kind of pressure to wear this emotional mask, where we're kind of showing people where like everything's fine, but then underneath like the mask, it's like we're not fine, so it's that kind of being able to kind of be who you really are and not having to kind of hide behind anything. And essentially it's kind of someone to maybe feel like we're compatible with. And also like different friends can also provide different things for you as well, right? So it's not like kind of thinking like, oh, one person has to provide, or like you have this kind of idealistic kind of thought that this one person has to provide everything for you. But that's not really necessary, as in like you don't have to say everything to one person. Like it also depends maybe also on what their strengths are. So maybe for one person, they're maybe a bit better at providing emotional support, versus someone else, perhaps. So, I think there's also kind of friends who can provide different things for you, and kind of knowing um, what friend you have for like whatever it is that you might need. Because essentially it is like a two-way relationship, isn't it? It's like, obviously you give something, you get something back from them, and vice versa. And being able to obviously listen to them, encourage them to like reach the goals that they want to reach, being a positive influence, and to have clear boundaries as well. I think the boundaries are quite an important thing to highlight on, because sometimes boundaries can become a bit blurred. And what I mean by that is, for example, physical boundaries. Are you feeling that you are with each other physically that you feel is appropriate? Emotional boundaries, for example, is one person maybe kind of just like sharing too much and you're not really feeling comfortable about that. Even like financial boundaries, where are people kind of asking for example, like a loan or something, and then you're not really feeling very comfortable about that, and you're not really feeling comfortable to express what your boundaries really are. So it's also having those clear boundaries and kind of being comfortable with that with someone, and then they really understand your boundaries as well, so as not to overstep the boundaries or kind of blur it or anything like that.
Thank you, Valencia. I really like it, and I think it's, as you said, is a mutual relationship, and you're building it. And I think, respecting, there is, to me, there is a connection in between, accepting that you might need more than one friend, because maybe, this specific friend won't be the right person to go to, if you need to confine, but might be the number one person to go to if you just need to take action about something, because she will
Mm,
be, motivating you. And I think, listening at you speaking about boundaries, I think it's also about respecting your friends' boundaries.
mm,
You might have someone, as I said, who will be, eager to climb, mountains with you and going for a hike every Sunday, which is something that you might, sincerely need. But at the same time, this exact same person with who you really enjoy spending time with might all of a sudden feel very uncomfortable listening at, you know how your relationship is maybe going with your husband. So I think it's very important to also respect your friends' boundaries, and really know, who you need to go to depending on what your needs are at the moment. And obviously, we very often we have one or two or three like best friends who can have these different who can wear these different hats, and that's,
mhm.
one of the most beautiful gift life
Yeah.
has for us. Um, so sometimes they wear different hats, and that's wonderful. Before we move into, describing a little bit what we might want to avoid when it comes to friendship, I'd just like to screen some of the comments that we, received, because there are a lot actually, and that was to be expected, because, I knew this topic would make the community react. Um, so we have, someone called Mia Moore. So, social connection can lower our anxiety and depression or our emotions, also lead to higher self-esteem, empathy, and actually to improve our immune, system. So yeah, exactly what you were saying, Valencia, at the very beginning,
Mm.
right? Some research, backs that up. So it's good for your health.
Yes. Mhm.
Liz is saying friends should not be toxic. It should be encouraging each other and enjoying each other company. Friends could also, help us identify our blind spots where they can tell us the truth. And that's very true. And that's also, it makes me think about what Jasmine was saying before, saying, I have a friend, she knows me better than I know myself. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes after a few years spent together, they can help us, spot what our blind spots are. That's very true. And she's also saying, laugh with us and encourage each other to grow. Yeah. Um, Mel is saying friends are our second family who understand us and never backfight us. Instead, they are the one who uplift us. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. Oliverio, she's saying, good friend is a shoulder you can lean on and you can trust. So again, this trust is very important. Social connection is very powerful form for having a positive mind and productive life through sharing and learning from everyone's experience and knowing each other values. Yes. Um, I'm just gonna pick a few more. Anne Maureen saying, "Good friends support us. Clap with your own success, and correct now. Right direct us if we're out of our own way." Yeah, that's an important kind of indicator that you're having a true friend. When something that makes you happy will make your friend happy. Yeah, that's working well. Ellen Mae saying a good friend should have a neutral personality. There's a need of giving and take in terms of listening to each other's side. Need to understand when to speak and stop at the same time. Yeah. So relating to boundaries, I guess. good communication and honesty are very important. Consider choosing a friend who is willing to share your burdens and not only in your victorious moment. Yeah, ups and downs, being supportive and not judging your actions in general. Um, There are so many. I'm not going to be able to read them all. They will be posted as comments just below the recording of the live. Maybe a few more on boundaries because I think it's a very valid point that you raised, Valencia. So Ellen May again, she's saying agree on setting boundaries, especially when another trusts the other in everything and shares her secrets. But instead of receiving respect, the others secretly do something to ruin the friendship that once was genuine. So yeah, you know, it's a very very personal thing, but you might protect yourself. That's one thing. So you might keep that in mind. Is there anything you want to jump on, Valencia, as I'm reading the other comments and preparing for going into discussing what bad friendships can sometimes look like?
Yeah, I was just reading through the comments myself, and thanks for them. It's really great to read through them actually. And like you said, you can't really go through everything, but there's so many different comments on how, just I guess reading about your own experiences. And yeah, it's just really great to read about. So yeah, please keep them coming in.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being that active tonight.
Mm.
So now, what do we call toxic friendship for one thing, and how to avoid it?
Yeah, I think earlier Ali May mentioned a little bit about that about the kind of going into the toxicity side of the friendship of of a friendship. And I mean earlier we were talking a little bit about what defines a good friendship. I guess toxic ones are ones which are almost the opposite of that, I suppose. Kind of referring to friendships which are unhealthy, which exhibit kind of toxic behavior, making us feel unsafe, maybe kind of hindering our mental health. Like maybe after an interaction with them, we kind of perhaps feel a bit worse, hindering our, like, not just our mental health, but maybe our growth as an individual. So maybe with some like signs for it. And bear in mind that a lot of the times maybe we don't really see the signs, even though they're there. We might kind of see them in like a different way. We might kind of feel a bit denial about it, or kind of rationalizing to ourselves that, oh, that's not what it is. It's just something else. So sometimes the signs are not that easy to see, which is why maybe sometimes it's like maybe other people can see blind spots better than what we can, right? But anyway, some of the signs which may involve, like this kind of feeling judged by the person, kind of compared against, like for example, things like very competitive behavior, or like kind of this comparison type thing, not really supporting you, basically. We mentioned earlier about boundaries, and sometimes with toxic kind of friendships, some of the boundaries can be kind of unclear, or they're not really respected. Like you were saying, it's like a mutual thing. But if you're kind of respecting the other person's, but then they're not really respecting yours, and I think that does leave a bit of a sour taste in our mouth as well. So things like feeling used, unsupported, like I mentioned, maybe not feeling like you're listened to, in like a safe kind of comfortable space. Maybe you may feel kind of unable to be comfortable to be yourself, or feeling unsafe to be yourself, or difficulty kind of expressing your emotions, and maybe like even an aspect of bullying that might come up as well. So, like what I was saying earlier, like some of these things can be quite difficult to recognize. But in terms of how to like manage these friendships, or like you asked, how to avoid it as such, I think like maybe the first step might be to be aware about this particular interaction. Like, is this interaction with this friend causing us to feel negative in any way? And kind of like thinking a little bit and reflecting, like, how might it look like to not have this person as prominent in our lives? Like, are you having some difficulties in pulling away? And if so, like, what might that be and why? Because obviously some, like, kind of pulling away from a certain connection or friendship is a very difficult thing. So, why is that being difficult? And kind of realizing what boundaries, if any, have been violated, and what are you looking for in a friend, So the the next thing I'll probably say is kind of like to look into, communicating these boundaries to that person. Are you willing to give it another chance? And this may involve having like quite a difficult conversation with the person. But then it's also good to remind yourself that, you are like taking care of yourself too, and that it's not a selfish act to have this very open and frank conversation with the person. And it's okay to, like, go into, that honesty perspective and kind of giving a person a chance. And of course, at the same time, remembering your own social network and connecting with your support system. Maybe talking with people, and kind of allowing yourself a time to grieve, because this basically is, if you are kind of going into maybe trying to change how your relationship looks like, or trying to kind of end it, then of course it's like a loss. So then there's going to be like maybe a grieving process that goes with that. But essentially, I think it's, if especially if it's like a toxic or unhealthy relationship, ending it is not necessarily a failure as well. So I think that's also kind of shifting how you see that friendship, and how that friendship would turn out as well.
Yeah, thank you, Valencia. Many, many good tips. I think one of the key takeaway from that is really like be kind to yourself, both on, accepting that you were in a relationship with this person that you might no longer want in your life. Things are constantly moving, and that's completely okay to change our minds. So don't end up judging yourself for having been in a relationship that was not entirely satisfactory, because it happens to everyone. And I also really appreciated what you say about, it does take time to heal,
Mhm.
because it's never black and white, and that's why we're calling it like toxic friendships. But in toxic friendship, you have friendship. So yeah, it's not an easy thing. So take the time that you need, and also shift a little bit the way of looking at it, because it's actually requiring a lot of courage, to pull away from this relationship. Thank you. Yeah, I think they were very, very important reminders. Margeline is saying very interesting things as well. She's saying toxic friends are those good in front of you but backstab you behind, but still we can't control anyone's mind. So we're not going to be opening up a new chapter here, but it's very important to um, accept that you can't control what other people feel or think, and the only thing you can control is what you want or don't want in your life, because this is
Mhm.
about your life and your choices. And she was also saying, one friend is enough as long as both can get along, happy spending time together, understand each other. Respect makes a friend stay. I like this statement, because, of course, respect is, a very beautiful value, and we do want to have that in any kind of, healthy relationship. But I also like the idea of, making of trying to have those friendships last over time. And sometimes you have some friendships that can feel like super strong for a short term, but it's also about maintaining that, maintaining healthy relationship does require time. So I'm mindful of the time again. Like, I would love to be able to read all these comments. You'll have the opportunity to read, to go through them on Facebook. Valencia, is there anything you'd like to share before we wrap up slowly and we come to the end of the event?
I just wanted to make reference to what you were saying about how, it's not, yeah, friendships are not a black and white thing. And I think it's also good to kind of think of like the kind of shades of gray, right? And the thing is that also, like, one thing which I wanted to add is that friendships can also come and go, like we spoke about what's a good one, what's a toxic one, where you might need to kind of work on shifting it or maybe even ending it. But a lot of the times friendships tend to come and go, right? Like, it depends on what stage of life we're in. For example, like moving to a new country or going into a new job. And we might kind of find ourselves in friendships that serve us well at the time, or maybe, versus those that don't. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's toxic. It's just kind of fizzles out because it just, maybe it served a need at one point, and then later on, maybe we might kind of reconnect with these people later in life, maybe when we're in like another stage. So I think it just kind of points to the fact that, like everyone, like us and those individuals that we're friends with, we all kind of evolve, we all grow over time, and we all develop, and our reflections can reflect that growth as well. And I think it's good to remind ourselves that that's not a bad thing. We are all kind of growing and developing, and sometimes, yeah, people just kind of come and go in that respect, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you, Valencia. It's, life is a constant change for sure.
Yeah.
So I think it's unless you want to add anything now, we might need to slowly come to the end of it. You okay with that?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that is. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for this wonderful discussion. And it's great to see all the comments from the community as well.
Yeah, it was a super active community tonight that we had,
Mhm.
and it was a very informative and inspiring session. Thank you so much, Valencia, for your time. Before we end the broadcast and we say, good night to each other, at least for those of you um, who are gonna go to bed after that, let's do our evening ritual together. So this is a very simple ritual that we're doing in our free online course, Dare to Dream, and also on our Facebook community. And this is also one of the best habits that you can have in your life. So those who are watching and listening to us, please feel free to also comment in the comment box, about what made you happy today. Valencia, is there anything you want to share about, simple joys that you experienced today or in the past couple of days?
Well, I mean, well, today definitely having this chat with you guys, and
Yeah.
for us, we're at the moment it's really in the peak of the summer, so really grateful for being quite close to the sun and the sea. So that's been really nice.
Oh, wow, I love it. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I think for me it's the same.
How about you?
I was really looking forward to that episode. I think it's a topic that is not very often discussed, but at the same time, friends are part of our life, everyday life. I would say, either online or in the real life. So I'm very very grateful that we had a discussion, and I hope the discussion can keep running, online or in close groups. I think I'm also grateful to be in France at the moment, so closer
Mhm.
to my family. I know it's not something to take for granted in the current context, so I'm very grateful for that. And looking ahead, I'm gonna go hike over the weekend in the mountains, which is something that makes me very happy, together with my husband and kids. So very grateful for nature as well.
Mhm. That sounds great.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be nice. And the sea
Yeah.
and the sun are very nice too. I loved it, but now it's time for mountain. I need, I
No,
need
yeah.
to.
Fair enough. Have a lovely time.
Thank you, Valencia. Thank you again for your time and for sharing
Thank
this
you.
very informative advice. And yeah, I think like the end word would be you be kind to yourself. The first step is really to be aware, as Valencia said. So just take the time to question if you feel like it, the relationships that you're surrounded with. And thank you again for joining. Have a wonderful night. Have a good rest. And we'll see each other again in a month on a different. Actually, they won't have any Facebook Live in August. We're taking a break. So we'll see each other again in September with a different topic. Thank you, everybody, for joining and take care.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you.
Bye bye.